Okay. So I see that Dr. Shay Kidd is here and he is our next speaker. I'll let Shay introduce himself, but he came to help us all with chalk and wire. And I'm happy he's explaining it and not me.
Yeah, I get that one a lot. So Ryan is going to take care of all your registration and hooking you up with Moodle and everything. And in the education department, we use chalk and wire, and that is linked through Moodle. Okay, so first thing that you need to know is what it even looks like. And so inside of Moodle, you have your big course with all these wonderful things. So this is screenshots from my course. And so there's quizzes and there's all these things. And right here, this green puzzle piece is the key thing that you are looking for when we are sending something to chalk and wire. What that green puzzle piece is actually a link to something external. So they are getting used for a few other things, but that's typically what we call them is, chalk and wire links are your green puzzle pieces. Now, each one of these is specially set up by your instructors, and so each thing that you turn in to chalk and wire needs to go into the correct link. And that's one thing that just making sure that when you're turning in a lesson plan, or in this case, a research paper, you click on the correct link. Because I have in one of my courses 4 different links. And if it doesn't go to the right place, then people have to call me at like 10 at night after you turn this in and to get it fixed. And I'm not happy at 10 o'clock at night. So yeah, once you click on this link though, then it takes you into a different system. And so it's kind of a window within your Moodle system. And so I've cleared out all the extra stuff that goes all the way around here. But whatever that assignment is that you're turning in will show up here. And noticing this page and what it does and does not tell you is really important. So yeah, there's the red box and we'll get there in a second. But notice over here on the right-hand side where it says it's not submitted. Line crossed through there, okay? Not submitted in red, all of that, you ain't done just because you clicked on there, okay? And so we'll come back to that spot as we do the whole process for when it is submittable and when it is submitted. And those are very different. And that's where I get lots of calls and questions. So when you click in here, whatever that assignment name is comes up top, and this is where you upload, okay? And so we upload files, or sometimes it's a text block or whatever thing, okay? And so as you click to add in a file, then it brings you to this. And sometimes you have to scroll down a little bit. So you'll click and like, okay, it did nothing. Actually, it did. We just couldn't see what it was doing. So you have to scroll down. Okay? May I highly suggest doing this on a computer rather than a phone, just because that way the screen is big enough for you to start to see some of the things that happen a little bit further down. Okay? So in here, drag or click your files and add them in here. Okay. Now, with some of the assignments that you'll get in different classes, the file type is an important thing to really think about, because as you're sending this to your instructors, the format type needs to be something that your instructor can access. So PDFs, universally accepted. Typically a Word doc is good. The spot where we hit a lot of problems is when you have to submit a video. And so being careful with that. If your instructor wants you to put the video in, fine, great. What we typically do is say, make YouTube do all the work. Upload it to YouTube and make it unlisted. When you make something unlisted in YouTube, it means nobody can find it unless you give them the link, okay? And so that way all child protections and everything are completely taken care of. YouTube did a really good job with this. a couple of years back and really making sure that all the information was safe. So that unlisted link for YouTube is really key. And then you can just upload a link here instead of having to upload an entire file. Okay. And a YouTube link works for anybody, anywhere. And so that's the nice thing, is formatting just made your life a lot easier by going through YouTube. Okay. But you click on that choose file, you go, you find whatever it is. Okay. And then again, subtle little difference. After you've uploaded it, it shows up down below here. Okay. Now that means that it's in Chalk and Wire, but Chalk and Wire does tons of assessments. And so you could upload several things, or you could upload some things at one time and some at another. It's not until after we click this wonderful Insert Files button that it actually gets connected to this assignment. Okay. And so after we click that, then it shows up here. So here's our assignment, and then right there is our file. Okay. So little changes that as you track through that, you'll see that. And so after you do this like 2 or 3 times, what do you do? But that first time, there's so many questions that come up for people. Okay. So after we've got something actually in there connected to our assignment, then this submit button goes green or blue. I have seen blue a few times lately. Okay. So that means it's ready to be submitted. Okay. And notice this still not submitted written down there. Okay. So in our wonderful Chalk and Wire, because sometimes you're uploading multiple assignments or multiple files, and maybe you're doing a whole unit plan, so it's got like 3 or 4 different lessons. So you may upload them each one at a time. Then you want to submit the whole thing. Okay. So they really break it out so that way there's plenty of spots for you to, 1, get held up, or 2, keep adding to your final product. Okay. So when you click this submit button, the very first time that you do it, it's going to take you here to the demographic survey. Okay. And this is an important thing that we need to be able to help track who's submitting stuff, where it's coming from, those kinds of things. And so this is just a small screenshot of the much bigger demographic survey. Things like where you're taking classes, your ethnicity, what degree you're seeking, all those kinds of things. So that way we can best track the data that you're giving us. Okay. And this asks you to update, I think it's about annually. And so if you do this for the first assignment in the class, you probably won't have to do it for any of the rest of the assignments in class. But we do that update just to make sure that if you do change your major, or if you move or something changes in your life, we're getting as clean and accurate data as possible for you. Okay. So don't worry, it's held everything in your actual assignment and is sent you here. Nothing got lost. Okay. So after you finish your demographic survey, then it comes here and says, all right, let's finish submitting. And you put in your assessor. Okay. Now, an assessor is kind of a general term that we use. A lot of times it's whoever the instructor is for your course. But occasionally you may want to send something specifically to your advisor, as we have things for the teacher education program. You work with your advisor, so that way it's not tied to a class. But any of those, this is where you need to know who your instructor is and how to spell their name. That's why I really like my name, simple Shay Kid. Anybody can spell that. Okay. And put it in there. And then after you fill it in, then you finally get this submitted. The ED is so vitally important for this. And once that's done, it says who it went to, what it was, okay, all that. And it even has this nice little envelope right next to my name, because I get an email every time every single student submits anything into Chalk and Wire, which is a little overkill. But that way, if you're like, I don't know if that worked, you can always email your instructor and they'll know. Okay. Now, if there are any problems in this whole process, and Jen has a little video that basically goes through this whole thing. But if you have any problems, like suddenly the assessor's the wrong person, or um, it was the wrong file or something, then you can always reach out to me, email, and direct, I can get into Chalk and Wire and assign it to the correct person. Okay. Or if we need to submit a second time, and sometimes that happens like, oh, I updated that file after I submitted. You can submit multiple times and your instructor will get each one of those. You just let them know which one you want to do. So it's, oh, only correct the last one. The first one, I uploaded the wrong file or whatever that might be. And that's worth the communication with your instructor. I work on the bigger problems kind of thing. Okay. Now, there is one little thing too. Occasionally you get into a link that brings you here. And this shows you the whole portfolio. Okay. If this happens, it means that it's basically taking too broad of a view and it didn't pick out your specific assignment. So within that list down here, you got to find which one of those assignments it is. But this is a pretty rare thing. Most of the time, as your instructors set up those links, it will bypass all of this kind of stuff for you. Okay. But just in case, don't freak out if this ever comes up. It just means it took a step back and you may need to go and find which one it is. Okay. So when you click on that link all the way back in Moodle, this link will create your account for you the very first time. Okay. We've already set up and created accounts for all of our students. So that one click just confirms your account. Okay. Occasionally, if you're jumping from multiple computers or on a shared computer, it may give you any kind of an error because it's trying to log you in based on its cookies, the little files that the internet keeps on us all. Okay. If you get any of those, it just means we need to clean out the cookies. We need to make sure that it's Moodle is talking correctly to Chalk and Wire. Okay. So try clearing those out. If something does not work, then you screenshot whatever it's telling you the problem is, and you send that to me and say, fix this, because that's basically what I do. Any questions?
Can I add that that was a lot of information,
Yeah.
but it's good to know it's out there, right? And Shay sent a video separate from this to explain it, and we are here to help you through your first assignments that you have to submit through Chalk and Wire. But Shay, I wondered if you could tell people why we even use Chalk and Wire. Why is it? Why do we even submit assignments to Chalk and Wire instead of Moodle?
Yeah. So Moodle is really great for dealing with things one class at a time. But as we look at our entire program, we need to be able to see across classes. And Moodle doesn't do that very well. So that's why we have Chalk and Wire. So that way we can see where you were at the beginning point and the class that you took then, and then somewhere in the middle, and somewhere at the end, tracking across each of your classes. So that way we know if we're missing something somewhere along the way, as well as for accreditation and all those kinds of things, because that's always something we have to worry about.
Yeah, it's a place where we can store your assignments long term and that you have access to too, like an electronic portfolio. Because we also keep assignments throughout all of our early childhood classes. Right, Shay?
Yep, all of them.
All of them. So we will share more information with you and we will be here to help you the first time that puzzle piece shows in your classes. Okay. Right. Any other questions for Shay before we introduce our next speaker?